Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. This is going to be a Cosmos update. We're going to be looking at the price technically, and really, I guess this is a warning or me giving some thoughts on the fact that I can see Cosmos coming significantly lower, certainly halving in terms of value from where it currently is, and potentially there is the scope for it to go a little bit lower. And I'm going to be covering that in this video. So I don't really care if you're going to get upset at me calling for lower Cosmos prices. I'm not doing it out of any spite towards the project. I'm actually a massive fan of Cosmos and this whole layer zero concept. You know, I think the future that we're moving towards is one where blockchain plays a crucial role in infrastructure. And I actually think that in the future, you're going to have big billion, trillion-dollar companies that have their own blockchains or their own dApps. And I think that big companies will probably favor this as layer zero concept, where they kind of have their own sovereign layer one blockchain that they can tailor make to potentially building a dApp. I think there's a lot more advantages. So I'm a huge bull on Cosmos over the long term. I think it has an exceedingly or exceptionally bright future. However, I think that really what's dictating the price for not just Cosmos, but the rest of the cryptocurrency market is the broader macro conditions. You know, every market was moved from March 2020 onwards by the printathon that we saw. We're essentially in a reverse of that environment. And we're really in uncharted waters in regards to the interest rates that the United States and other central banks have set with the colossal debt markets that we now have. You know, something serious is going to break. And I do actually envision potentially another March 2020 event or a Lehman's moment leading into 2008. I think we're just waiting for that event, someone or something for central banks to blame for what is going to be a pretty deep recession. And unfortunately, you know, I think that all assets are going to get hit. The stock market, you know, gold. The only thing I think is going to do quite well is the dollar. And I think this is going to be as a result for people looking for safety. And Cosmos and crypto will not escape that. So we're just going to be laying down some thoughts. You know, I am exceptionally bullish on Cosmos. Today, it's currently sat, let's find it, 23rd in terms of market cap with a $2.7 billion market cap. In my opinion, there's no reason down the road, we're talking years, that Cosmos can't get to the hundreds of billions, you know, certainly get to where it once was. And, you know, is really going to flourish. And it's 73% down today, year to date. And I think it has significantly lower to go. So the last update, or one of the last updates that we gave, we've covered things like the Atom 2.0 paper and so on and so forth, was essentially we were looking at Cosmos around about the $12 to $13 range. And we were saying, look, get ready for $5.50 or thereabouts. I think that will definitely be an area round about this region where you will have people looking to buy, people looking to take a spot buy. Certainly, I'll be very interested in buying Cosmos round about this area. But there is probably or potentially a head and shoulders that Cosmos has that would suggest more severe downside coming to sort of the $2 to $3 range that I don't think is out of the realms of possibility. So my best case scenario for Cosmos is sort of the $4 to $5 range. Probably more like $5.13, but there is the potential that it comes back and trades into its sort of March 2020 capitulation price action. And I think this has a lot to do with that March 2020 repeat or a Lehman's moment that will affect all financial markets and see people run for the exit across the board. I do envision that, but because that hasn't materialized yet, it's really speculation. What isn't speculation is understanding the macro conditions and why they dictate, based on liquidity, that all markets are going to suffer under the regime that we are currently in. So we've been very spot on in terms of the direction. We had a number of shorts that we were playing out and getting successful. We did see downside from when we gave the short, and we traded all the way down to sort of $10.60. So it was a good trade. Then we had a rally up. And then, of course, this big candle here was caused by the FTX spill. And largely, we've just consolidated here. Not really showing much strength, in my opinion. But what I'll do is I'll focus on the larger time frames, and then I'll drop down the time frames. I'm also going to look at Atom versus Bitcoin, because I've had quite a few people say to me, you know, I do cross market, not just looking at coins in regards to the dollar, but also looking at coins in regards to, you know, some of their crypto pairs. Now, I've had a lot of people say that this is a falling wedge, but this I found on Cosmos against Bitcoin is quite a common thing for it to do before seeing further downside. Sort of setting up this sort of a structure here where it has these sort of three impulses. Each impulse is significantly weaker. It shows a volatility reduction. You have this kind of marginal stab, and then you start the leg lower. You had a similar thing actually play out over here. I'll just show you this again. And this is potentially what we're looking at. You know, I think Bitcoin will show strength, not because it's a better crypto. In fact, I think the opposite is true. I think I'm far more bullish on Cosmos than I am Bitcoin in terms of looking into the future. But I think people are going to look for safety in a market that is, from a capital management point of view, pretty unsafe. So let's get into it, guys. This, of course, is the non-log chart. This is the log chart. You know, you rejected perfectly off your 30-day EMA. You then had a push-up, and then we got the FTX spill. So you could argue that Bitcoin and crypto is maybe looking for more upside, but, of course, got cut short. You know, the stock market did very well during that time period when we had the FTX spill, and the dollar was very weak. I think the dollar will reassert. But I just want to look at this structure here. And I would potentially say that this was a nice reverse head and shoulders. The problem is, I think what's setting up now is you're doing the opposite. Remember, we're in the opposite environment from March 2020 onwards when they just flooded the system with money. And that if this was to play out, depending on where you want to draw this neckline, so for me, I'd probably say your neckline, moving away from this head and shoulders, is somewhere in here. Okay? I wouldn't necessarily class the wicks. So just to take the candle bodies on the weekly, you know, if this was your neckline and this is actually a valid head and shoulders, and I'll get a lot of people saying, okay, well, what about when you put a toe below it? Well, this is just, it's crypto. It's very, very volatile. Your target for that, using this as the break, would take you down to around about $2.16. Now, I'm not necessarily calling for that, but if we do see this capitulatory event, then this may be something to pay close attention to. Certainly, if I think the overall cryptocurrency market has a significant leg lower, and it's probably going to be caused by some sort of macro financial event, then in my opinion, Cosmos, and I'm not doing this to shit on any Cosmos holders because I'm a bit of a Cosmonaut myself, but I am just saying that, look, this looks very weak, and the weakness in this right shoulder is I think, rather telling. You know, this is going to be a very big and significant week with all the data that we've got coming out, CPI for the UK, CPI for the US. We've got 3 rate hikes this week alone. We've got the, on Wednesday, we've got the Fed coming out and doing a rate hike, and then we've got the Bank of England and the ECB, the European Central Bank, all coming out to do rate hikes. You know, we spoke about this concept of liquidity continuously. Have we got the M1 money supply? You know, this is why markets went up in the manner that they did. This is the US money supply. And now we're in the adverse of that. So we've had very loose monetary policy, which of course caused a lot of the rally that we saw for the crypto market. We're potentially looking to retrace a lot of that as we fall into a deeper recession, and you know, we cover that on a daily basis on this channel. So make sure you subscribe for the daily crypto market updates. They are well worth watching. You'll get a lot more understanding for markets and what they're doing. So are we potentially looking at this as a head and shoulders? And does that mean that the play would be to $2 to $3, that sort of range? I'll certainly be putting buy orders there if I get lucky enough to get them filled. Just because this is present doesn't mean that it has to play out. Areas I'd also be very interested in buying would be round about here. So $4. I'd definitely look for some sort of a support here. This is at $5.60. Remember the video that we did prior looking at this technically called for a $5.50 Cosmos price. Since then, we've started that journey. We did have a little rally up, putting in a double top before we then see that continuation. And we're now looking, I think, for that downside. And I think this would be a golden target, this area here, if this head and shoulders plays out. I think Atom got a lot of limelight here. It really outperformed most of the cryptos. You know, if you look, for example, it did 208%, whereas Bitcoin on the rally only did 42%. So I think that there's some real strength here. Also, what you'll notice with Atom is it's not putting a new low from the previous one. However, I think it is going to find its way down to these levels, take out this, and then we'll see just how much further it goes and what's causing it to go down. So I honestly think that just based on the macro situation and the sort of liquidity draining effects it's having, Cosmos is coming down. However, if we do get another capitulation event, something like March 2020, then we would see significant downside, and it would be very fast. And this is why I'm looking to put buy orders in this kind of region between $2 to $3. There is some positives in regards to volume by price. You had a lot of volume around here, so that would explain this move. And also, you know, you can see your volume by price. You're really reacting off it here. The problem is you're on the underbelly of it. You're now rejecting from it, the area where there's most volume, which means that I think you've got buyers here along this line. Let's get rid of the other red line to not confuse people when we're looking at volume for, by price. Along this line, I think you're going to have a lot of buyers potentially trapped on the wrong side of the market, in my opinion. Because there was a lot of volume here, it suggests there was a lot of interaction. Could be shorts, could be longs. However, remember, this is the spot, not the futures contract. I think you're going to have a lot of buyers in this region, certainly up here, that are going to be trapped, and that likely, once further invalidation of any sort of more significant sustained upside is confirmed, certainly you run these highs, then we can say, okay, we're wrong. You're going to have a lot of forced sellers, I think. And I think you're going to have a lot of forced sellers in the environment that we're moving into anyway. So it's going to be a very interesting time. It's really just a video to keep people on the right side of the market. Again, I'm not hating on Cosmos. I actually think I'm more bullish on Cosmos than I am, the majority of tokens that are above it. I really am. I'm a massive fan of both Cosmos and Polkadot's ecosystem. But I think from a price perspective, from a specifically or a solely technical point of view and an economical point of view, I think that you are looking at lower prices, and we'll look for $5.50. We'll look for whatever kind of reaction we get here. Very likely you will get a bid here, just like Bitcoin recently with its 15,630 price. Got a bid, 15,006. Yeah. I think you will get a bid here, but the question is, does it then set up that continuation? And this is a natural progression given the sort of restraints that we're under. I do envision a capitulation event. I'm basically waiting for a Lehman's moment or a March 2020 moment where there's something for central banks and governments around the world to blame this recession on, even though they've largely caused it, and a recession is very much foretold just based on interest rate hikes, and BlackRock did a whole report on that. So that's all I've got for you in this one, guys. If you enjoyed the content, like is always appreciated. So as a comment, keep these targets in mind. $5.50, and then look for your $4.20 sort of range, and then you may get a golden opportunity here, guys. Certainly, I would argue that there'd be quite a bit of support coming in down in this sort of region. You may get that golden opportunity to get it at this discount if this head and shoulders plays out. All I've got for you in this video, guys. You enjoyed the content, like, always appreciate it as a comment, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Have a wonderful day, ladies and gents.